you now have some experience writing HTML code. So now what I want to do is just kind of describe sort of what we've been doing. I don't like doing it before we start writing it because that way you don't have any bearing of what I'm actually talking about because you haven't actually seen it. But now you've seen it, you've written it. I'm going to just go in a little bit more depth of just sort of the structure of HTML. All right. So one way of defining it is that each line is an element, okay? And the element is basically defined by the opening tag and the closing tag and then the content within it, right? Now, if you remember before, if you recall, I said that, it's a markup language. So the idea is that this is just text, but by wrapping it inside this P element, or these P tags, okay, that gives it more information, right? Now you're like, oh, this should be treated like a paragraph. And so this text will then be displayed in that manner, okay? So most of the time your elements will have an opening tag, it'll have the content within it, and then it'll have a closing tag. Now it is also possible to have open elements, and usually those, the element itself is the content as well, okay? But a good way to look at them in general is that it's just like a container that's holding the content, and it just treats whatever's between these two tags. It gives it some extra information. So, for example, we've been writing so far. Let's go up here, right? So this is like an open element. It's an element that just says one thing. So there isn't a closing part because it itself is the information, as opposed to this one, right? Where it has an opening and it has a closing, right? So that just says everything within this element, right, is going to be, all the elements nested in this element will be treated as HTML. And everything within this one, within the head, will be treated also as, it will be treated as head, right, as that information. Now here you'll see we have title, right? So we have an opening and closing, and that just says this information in here is a title, okay? And then we have more of that underneath as well. We have these open elements, right? Because the meta itself is the information. It's not wrapping any content. It's just giving information. So that's why there's nothing inside of it. Now, most of the body elements, they are going to have stuff inside because they're giving information about the content. So this is cone, right? But it's going to be treated as a heading. It has an opening and closing tag. Same thing with this P element. Hopefully you get the idea, all right? So you're going to generally see most of them are going to be, closed elements where they have both, and some of them will be open. But again, just think of them as containers with the content between, all right? So we also have attributes. So the attributes is that inside of the opening tag, you can have extra information that you give that tag, all right? So they will come in pairs where you'll have the name of the attribute, and then you give that a value. So in the case of what we see here, which is actually kind of hard to see, I have an A anchor, right? So you can see this is the opening tag, and then here's the closing tag, which is going to treat what this is as a hyperlink. So this would show up as a link that you could click on. But inside of the A, I have this href, which stands for horizontal reference. And then it has basically a URL, a uniform resource link, which this is the address. This is the file that it will open when I click this, okay? But it needs this extra information. Now, we've already done this a little bit as well, because if you look at these meta, right? So we have this meta, and then we say character set, and then we give it, so that's the name, and then we give it a value of this, right? And then we have, these are all like kind of custom. We have a name, we give it the value of description, and then we have the content, and then we give that this value, all right? So a lot of these metas basically work in the same way, where they are also given attributes. So most of the time, you will actually not be giving your tags attributes. You'll do it in other ways. Certain ones require them. So like meta tags will, obviously hyperlink would, because I need to know when I click this, where is it going to go? And some other ones will as well. But that's what you've been writing. So every time you write a new line and you write those tags, that is an element, okay? And later on, you'll see we can target our various elements in order to have them be different colors and different sizes and position, and rotation, and all sorts of things, okay? Anyway, so hopefully that makes sense. We're just going to continue and write a little bit more HTML.